Hello, I'm Dilly MacFarlane, and welcome to the Alumni Special. Today my guest is Margie Gillis, who's a brand new Sister of Charity. Hi, Margie.
Hello, Dilly.
Welcome to our show. I'm glad you could come today.
Thanks very much.
So, you are a brand new Sister of Charity.
Yes, I am.
A rare breed these days.
2 weeks old.
2 weeks. So, 2 weeks ago, you professed your vows to a brand new life.
That's right. Yeah, at St. Michael's Church in Spryfield.
I see.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the process of becoming a Sister of Charity. Where does it all begin, Margie? Did you want to be a sister when you grew up, when you were a little girl?
I'm not sure I ever specifically thought that I would want to become a sister, although I think I was very interested in kind of cooperative ways to work with people and to live with people and to be with people and to be doing, I think, constructive work in the world. So I graduated from high school in New Waterford in Cape Breton and then decided to come to Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax here. While I was here, I became very active in the chaplaincy department here at the university. And
what program did you study while you were here? What courses?
While I was here, I did a Bachelor of Arts degree, and I majored in the area of Canadian Studies, and then went on and did my Bachelor of Education degree.
Did you actually teach, Margie?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't teach. Teaching jobs were very difficult at the years that I finished my Bachelor of Ed, so I really just never had that opportunity.
Right. So how did you become involved with the Sisters of Charity? At what point in your life did you feel that you were on your path to something like becoming a sister?
I worked for 5 years at St. Michael's Parish in Spryfield, and worked very closely with the Sisters of Charity there. During those years, there were Sisters of Charity that lived in the area and worked in that area as well. So I really kind of came to know them in a very different way, I think, in working in that parish and working with them there. And what I saw, I liked. I saw a very different side of religious women.
Like what? What did you see?
I saw women who were very dedicated to working with people, to working especially with the underprivileged, the poor, the people who are somehow in need. I saw women who were very dedicated to peace and justice issues, and who lived their lives according to their values and to their dreams, and struggled a lot with some of those issues, I think.
Did you know sisters when you were a little girl yourself, in school as teachers and so on?
Yes, I did. I was educated by the Sisters of Charity in elementary school in New Waterford. So I think I've had a long history of Sisters of Charity in my background.
And you have gained a new perspective by working with them in the parish in Spryfield.
Yes, absolutely. A very different perspective, I think, than I ever had.
How did you see them when you were a little girl, Margie? What did you think of sisters then?
Well, I think it's an experience that perhaps many of us have had of sisters. I think they were very robed in kind of long traditional
I think
dress.
The kids today would say awesome.
Awesome?
Yeah. As in full of awe.
Yeah, probably.
If your feelings were anything like the feelings that we had here growing up with the Sisters of Charity, I think we revered them and respected them and obeyed them, and perhaps maybe saw them more in a disciplinarian role than as a co-worker or
That's right.
as an equal worker on a project or whatever. I was interested to hear you refer to the cooperative type working atmosphere and living atmosphere. How are you adjusting to that, Margie? How do you find living in a community like the Herring Cove Convent? How has that affected you?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think my adjustment has been fairly smooth process, at least for me personally. And I think I've had a couple of other experiences of community living. When I was a student here at the Mount, there were 5 of us who decided that we wanted to live a Christian community concept. And so we rented a house in the Halifax area and tried to live some of those values of what it is to live cooperatively together and to somehow share faith together. that was the first experience I had. And then I lived for 2 years with another community, the Religious of the Sacred Heart, here in Halifax, who have a community, an extended community for young women who are interested in living, again, that sense of Christian community.
Well, now, at this point, Margie, was this part of the process of becoming a sister? Were you thinking of yourself as becoming on the road to becoming a sister even then?
I was.
But you
Very
weren't
much
saying
in the
so
back
at the
of my
time.
mind. No, I don't think I was saying too much at the time. But what I was mostly interested in was, again, that sense of alternative lifestyle, of alternative living, and how can you live out your values with people who have the same values, and I think to live out your faith, and how we can do that in the world today when we're, I think, pressured by so much materialism and consumerism, and so I think I was very much interested in those types of lifestyles, and to experiment with that.
You are a rare breed, you know. I mean, there are not too many, I think, young women, especially with a professional background and so on, who are choosing the kind of life that you're describing to me now. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel perhaps more individualistic, I think. I'm feel very privileged to journey with the Sisters of Charity. And so I'm very happy to be with them and to work with them and to live with them. But I think you're right. I think probably for young women today, or for women generally, it's a very different kind of lifestyle. Although I do see a trend with married couples, for instance, or lay people who are interested certainly in alternative lifestyle living situations and who are experimenting with that. So I do see kind of trends in this area, and not they're specifically not interested in perhaps a religious congregation or religious communities, but looking for alternative lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Do you find people treat you differently since your profession, now that you're officially Sister Margie Gillis? Do you find that there's any kind of a wall between you and the people that normally would have taken you
Right.
in a more relaxed way?
Yeah, no, I haven't found that at all. Living in Spryfield, or working in Spryfield about 7 years ago, I had a wonderful relationship with the people there and appreciated very much working with them. And as I've returned again this time to work in the area as a Sister of Charity, I've found them even more welcoming, more hospitable, I think.
And they don't treat you differently because now you're an official sister?
I haven't found that. I hope not.
Well, you certainly aren't. I think, Margie, you're a very warm person. I'm sure that you would not be intimidating to anyone, but I think that probably your status as a sister in this day is probably quite different from what you would have experienced as a sister even 25 or 30 years ago.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you see a change in, I'm just interested in your comments on the development of women religious in Canada and in the world even. Do you see a change?
In my limited experience, yes, I do see a dramatic change. I think women's religious congregations are attempting to very much come in touch with the issues of the world today. And rather than to be cloistered or out of the world, living kind of separately, I think many congregations are moving more into the world and attempting to be much more involved with people. Not that they weren't involved with people before, I think they were very much, but I think it was a different society and a different time than it is today. You see many more women religious in peace and justice demonstrations, in the work of peace and justice, in soup kitchens, in working with the poor, gathering furniture, attempting to change some of the systems that are already existing in the world today. And I think you see many nuns and sisters very much in the forefront in those areas.
So, for instance, your work in the Spryfield community it's an outreach program?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, Margie.
This is it's entitled the Spryfield Outreach Program, and it's sponsored by the Sisters of Charity of Halifax, of the Halifax province. It's a very, very new project. We're just beginning in the initial weeks of beginning the project. And it is a response on the part of the Sisters of Charity of Halifax to assist the needs of the poor and the underprivileged and the people that really need assistance in that localized Spryfield area. And I think that that's kind of an indication of where we feel the types of work, or perhaps where we feel we'd like to be assisting in some way, is with the poor, the underprivileged.
This small text that you've brought with you today, the constitutions of your order, could you read me something, a brief passage from the area that's marked service in your constitution?
Yes, well, this is a section that many of us quote quite often, and I think it kind of sums up basically who we are, who we want to become, and perhaps even says a little bit about the reason for the Spryfield Outreach Project. And section 43 reads, "Corporately and individually, we strive to develop a sensitivity toward those whom the world oppresses, to right in great ways or small the injustices we see around us, to heal the wounds of the embittered, to speak peace to the troubled, to urge the mighty to right wrongs, that we may bring the compassion of Christ to all whose lives we touch." And I think that speaks volumes of...
It's a challenge.
Most definitely a challenge. Yes.
How do you feel about facing that, Margie?
I feel very much ready for the task. I think there is, and certainly other women in the community do as well, and I think there's a certain amount of stimulation and motivation in that sense of support, of supporting one another to be somewhat challenging, to strive to work hard with people who are in need, to reach out to the embittered. I think we support one another in attempting to do that. Now, mind you, it's a struggle many times. I mean, it's not always wine and roses.
The easy thing to do might not be the best thing to do.
That's right, yeah.
Do you have a role model, a mentor, someone who you look to for advice or guidance in that way? One of your sisters or a professional person? Or I'm curious to know how much influence is gained by example from sisters in your order.
Yeah.
I've met some incredible sisters of charity, and I can call them nothing but inspiring as far as that goes, and I wondered if you had experienced that too.
I think probably I have experienced that to some degree, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here at this point in time.
Is there anybody in particular that stands out in your mind that you might have?
Well, I think my experience with the sisters in the Spryfield area in the years that I worked in that parish, I think I was very deeply touched by their dedication and their commitment to the people there and to living in that area. I think that's probably very simple, but I think that's the way that I was touched and made my decision, I think, to enter the Sisters of Charity.
What happens next, Margie, now that you've made your formal profession, your vows? What happens to you next as a Sister of Charity in the process?
In the process. Well, there is still a period of time before I make what we call perpetual vows with the community, or final profession. And it's a minimum of 3 years from now and a maximum of 6 years. And somewhere in that time space, I will determine whether I will make final vows with the community. And they will determine whether I am suitable for the community as well. So I think it's a two-way street. So there are still a few years yet before kind of final incorporation into the community.
How many of you are there, Margie? How many brand new sisters?
Well, we currently have 4 novices in our Canadian novitiate, and our Canadian novitiate is in Herring Cove. And we have, I believe, 3 novices in the Boston province. So there would be 7 novices at this point in time.
Right. It's a lot of work to do in the coming years. Do you see a crisis situation because of the small number of novices?
The small numbers. I don't really see a crisis situation. I think our numbers will be fewer, but I think people that are entering the congregation today are older. They very much know what I think they want from life, and I think they're prepared at that point to make that type of a commitment or a decision, and they're willing to work hard, I believe. So yes, I'm sure our numbers will be smaller. I'm not sure it will be a crisis though for us. I think there'll be exciting times.
Well, Margie, I think that you probably have a great deal of work and joy ahead of you. I want to thank you very much for coming to see us today on the program, and I wish you good luck with your outreach program in Spryfield.
Great, thanks very much, Dilly.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me today here on the Alumni Special.